Hey guys, welcome to my carpet. Today is Squishy Makeovers, Fixing Your Squishies, Part 2. I have here all of my squishy donations that have been sent to me from you guys. I unboxed all of these last week and I asked you guys to help me pick out a couple to do today. So quick announcement, I have gotten so many more squishy donations in the mail since I filmed this and it's insane. I appreciate it so much, but I'm gonna ask that you guys hold off on sending me any more at this point. I wanna just make sure that I can get through at least some of these before accepting new ones. Thank you, let's get back to the video. The results are in. Let me go through the comments and see what some of the highly requested ones are. So I think definitely the most popular request is the huge ice cream cone, which is here. So this guy, okay, yes, oh my gosh, the frog. Check for sure. Another highly requested one was the costume cutie. They gonna get painted today. For the fourth one, I'm actually gonna leave it to chance. I'm gonna put the lid back on, close my eyes, shake up the box, and then pull one out at random. Okay, closing my eyes. Yeah, I just bumped the camera because my eyes were closed. I'm so stupid. Okay, so I'm gonna close my eyes now and mix these up. Hopefully that's in frame. I really don't know if it's in frame yet. And pick one out. Oh, yes! I was really looking forward to painting this one, so I'm so happy. Don't worry, they will have their time. Okay, let's get into the makeovers. And you guys know what time it is, squishy roasting. So this ice cream cone, it's a giant. It's very injured in multiple different places. Devastating rips running all the way around. There's a decent sized chunk missing over here, and then just general rips, cracks, and holes all over the place. The colors and the design is actually kind of cute, although I'm not sure what exactly those blue chunks are meant to be. First things first, the repairs. I'm going to be using some fabric glue for this. Fabric glue is definitely the best thing to use because it dries flexible, so you don't have hard bits in your squishy that would not be squishylicious. So I'm going to apply a thin layer in all these cracks. And then put a rubber band around the whole thing to keep pressure on it while it's drying. Pressure pushing down on me. Oh my gosh, I'm literally dying. Once it dries, it's safe to take off those rubber bands. At this point, it's basically healed, but there are those little surface cracks and it's best to seal those up. So I grabbed some random color of fabric paint that I don't use very often and sealed up the cracks. I plan on painting the entire squishy anyway, but this will make it double layered for more durability. You get me? Beautiful. Now I'm gonna work on that missing chunk. Luckily, this area has a lot of texture already, so it kind of blends in anyway, but I'm just gonna clean it up a bit to make sure that it doesn't look wonky once it's painted. Good enough. So I'm starting with a coat of white paint. Oh my gosh, the amount of paint that this squishy required is insane. I went through almost an entire bottle of white paint. It was intense. Once that dried, I'm going to flip it over and repaint the cone in that same typical coney color, just so we can get that out of the way. Now, I'm not saying that the cone is less important than the ice cream, but let's just get back to the ice cream because that's where the real magic happens. I'm applying another layer of white paint. You may be asking yourself, why is she holding the squishy with a Ziploc bag? I tend to get wet paint on my fingers and then transfer it onto parts of the squishy that are already done, and then I have to go over it and fix it. This is not going to be a vanilla ice cream cone. I'm just building up a nice base coat so I can use my metallics. Bahaha. I'm mixing some white metallic paint with different colors of the iridescent paint. And why is the lens all cloudy? Somebody tell me. The reason I mixed the iridescent and the metallic together is because the metallic is a lot more pigmented than the iridescent. The iridescent is so weak, so this is just the best way I know how to get good coverage and still have that pearly effect. So I'm doing a pearlescent rainbow ice cream. That sounds like it'd kill you if it was an actual flavor. It'll be pretty. I'm not really worried about blending the color at this point, so I'm just kind of slapping the colors next to each other and I'll take care of the blending later. About halfway across the scoop, I realized I was definitely going to run out of room for all the colors, So the purple got the sack, which affected me very deeply in the moment, but I got over it because it actually looks pretty good without the purple. And finally, that fog has cleared. Phew, I was about to freak out. So to blend the colors, I'm using a paintbrush to apply a thin layer of paint and get those colors a little blendier. I probably did like 3 thin layers like this until I was satisfied with the amount of blendiness. And here's the cone. I'm kind of in love with how this turned out. I love the pearlescent, I love the rainbow, even though it's missing purple. It's just so shiny and decorative, and my eyeballs feel satisfied when I look at it. Oh my gosh, I'm such a freak. It's also very slow rising, which is great. Just great. Okay, so for the costume Cutie. Now I know some people are just gonna be mad at me for painting this one. It is really cute already. It's not damaged besides a tiny little neck tear, so it really doesn't need fixing. But even if a squishy is not tragically injured, it can still be fun to customize it and make it your own. If I am gonna point out a problem here, it's the pink on pink. It's just a lot of the same pink. Problem right off the bat, this squishy is too smooth for fabric paint. Fabric paint needs texture to hold on to, otherwise it will peel off like a very crappy sticker. So the only way I know how to fix this problem, and this may hurt your heart, take some sandpaper, the coarsest sandpaper you can find. Make sure you cover your mouth and nose so that you're not breathing any dust, and start scraping up the squishy. I've tried a lot of things. I've tried coating the squishies with everything under the sun, adding things to the paint. Nothing has worked except for this. When you're done, there should be little visible rips all over the squishy. So yes, in a series called Fixing Your Squishies, I'm showing you guys how to rip them. Makes total sense. I've gotten a lot of requests to try out matte fabric paint, so I went out and bought this, and it's about the same price as the slick paint, not cheap. The first thing I noticed is that this is a lot more watery than slick paint. It's almost like acrylic paint. By the way, acrylic paint is not good to use on squishies because it's not stretchy and it will crack. A lot of people ask me that. I'm gonna start with the costume, and I'm just trimming off some of the bogus nonsense that's around the seam. And good news, the matte paint can definitely be applied with a paintbrush rather than a popsicle stick. It's pretty thin, so you do have to do quite a few layers, about 5 or 6 to get full coverage, but it dries a lot faster, so it's not that big of a deal. There definitely is still a shine to it, but it's a lot less shiny than the slick paint. Thank you guys for asking me to use this though, because I've discovered that I am a fan of the matte paint, and I will definitely use it in the future. I was wondering whether I should paint the inside of the costume, but then I was like, no, that's insane. I don't need to paint the inside. I didn't need to paint the inside, right? I made this into a watermelon theme. So the costume, I'm painting like the outside of a watermelon. And I'm aware that these aren't the most accurate colors of watermelon, but I think if the goal was to be realistic, we probably wouldn't be putting a bear in a bunny costume. So, and I like pastel colors, so I went with that. Now I'm just finishing up with the little details, and the costume's done, so let's go take care of the bear. So, conceptually, the bear is the inside of the watermelon. I am gonna change the color, but not dramatically. It's still kind of similar to what it was before. Oh. And I didn't film every coat that I put on there, but I did put about 7 coats of paint to cover up all those rips. And now I'm working on the details, starting on those eyes, and then I realized these eyes are way too far apart and the costume is going to be covering up half of each eyeball. So I had to paint over them, and this paint is definitely not as forgiving. I had to paint so many coats just to get them to somewhat be covered up. So if you make a mistake, you will regret it. Some people are triggered by the way I paint faces on squishies because they seem to think that this is the only way a face should look on a squishy. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I know the kawaii face designs are what everyone does, and that's like the style or whatever, and that's totally fine. But I like to try to be creative and come up with my own style, and I think this looks good. I'm just kidding. But seriously, even if I'm just making tiny little changes or adding my own little spin to something, I like to feel like I'm using my own ideas and my own brain. I feel better about my work in the end. Here's the final result. The watermelon idea I really love, and I also think he looks just just as cute naked as he does inside his costume, maybe this squishy didn't need to be fixed. But I love it more now because it's completely custom and it's one of a kind. He does look a little crazy in his costume with those big eyes. I love it. I think it's so funny and so cute. I love his green eyes and how they match the costume. I was originally gonna add more watermelon elements to the bear, like add some black seeds on him or something, but I just really liked him plain. Okay, next, let's take care of this sad brownie. This one is so soft and satisfying to squish, and the design is really not a problem either because I think it's nice. It looks appetizing. It is very, very cracked and broken. Cracks, 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 crack. I think we can all see that this squishy has got a crack problem. Maybe we should get it on intervention. Oh boy. Step 1, admit that you have a problem. Okay, I'm done now. So really only the big rip needs to be glued. The rest are kind of just on the surface. Rubber band that together. 30 minutes later, we're ready to roll. Again, I'm gonna take the time to seal up the rest of the rips. One thing I do hate about the matte paint is the bottles. I swear every time I open the cap, paint splatters everywhere. Maybe I'm just incompetent. Anyway, I'm putting together a cakey color and I'm painting that over everything except for the top corner. Now don't get me wrong, I loved the chocolate brownie and I mean no disrespect by changing it, but I just wanted to freshen things up a bit, and so I went with a vanilla brownie, or what do you call it, a blonde brownie. And now for the filling, which was a long internal struggle for me to decide what color to do for the filling. I considered some weird ideas, but I settled on the most basic option of all, white. I also added some powdered sugar on the top, and I'm aware that you can use a toothbrush for powdered sugar. I like to use a toothpick instead because I think you have a lot more control over it and it gives you neater results. So yes, a toothbrush is just too wild and out of control crazy for me. Finally, I'm going to take care of that nasty little corner. So I'm making it look like it's been dipped in chocolate, and you may notice I used the shiny fabric paint for the chocolate and the filling because I feel like it would have looked weird and flat to use the matte for those. Also, I wanted to use sprinkles. Nice sneaky entrance there. I don't think the matte paint would work well for adding sprinkles because it's so thin and it dries so fast. I think you would have a hard time getting a thick enough layer to hold those sprinkles in there. By the way, these are the sprinkles I made in my fake sprinkle tutorial, so if you're interested in seeing how to make these, you can watch that video. Here's the final squishy. Oh, it looks so good now. I know I always say that I love the results, but it's really true. I've just been really happy with all of the squishies that I've made in this series so far. I know a complete failure is bound to happen and I'm waiting for it. I love the look of the matte paint on the cakey part versus the slick paint for the chocolate and the filling. I think it looks really nice. Okay, now it's time for the frog. This frog is cute, very minor, small damage on it, so it doesn't really need any repairs, but I feel like it's just missing something. It's one solid color with a basic face. It's just kinda, and I think most of us agreed when I unboxed this one that he could use a species change. So I decided to change this frog into a cat. Like the bear, he's too smooth to paint on. So here we go with the sanding again. So I'm gonna sit him here so he can watch step 1 of his species change. I'm just using some scrap memory foam to construct a tail. I was not sure if it was gonna look right, but it's just not a cat without a tail. So I had to do it and take the risk. So I cut a big fluffy tail for him and I used some fabric glue to glue it in place. Now, I don't really know if this frog was aware of his changing body or if he really even wanted these changes to happen, but I imagine it was a very confusing time for him. So again, I'm using the glow paint to secure everything and put a nice thick coat on the memory foam because memory foam needs a lot more paint on it to cover all the little holes. So now it's a frog with a big wet looking carrot. Exactly what I was going for. Now I'm mixing up a nice tan color. This is advanced, so don't try this at home. I'm gonna give him a more cat-like color, all except his head, because I have to have something dry to hold on to. So it's now a frog head with a cat body. It makes me kind of uncomfortable to look at it. Now I'm covering the head and it's definitely looking more like a cat now. That green color was a little stubborn. It took 3 coats to cover it, but it did finally get the picture and get lost. Time to add the catness. So I'm adding some brown stripes on him, painting the end of the tail, giving him a white chest, which I was going to make into a heart, but then I thought it looked dumb, so I changed it. Now I'm adding all the little details of his face, some little pink cheeks and all that kind of good stuff. The cheeks were a little obnoxious, so to tone them down, I just put on a couple thin layers of that cat color, and that worked nicely to tone those down. And I didn't end up adding a mouth, which I'm sure I'm gonna hear a lot of complaints about. I thought someone was going to have a heart attack when I didn't add a nose to the cat ice cream cone I made last time, but you know, I think it looks good just like it is. It looks complete to me, it looks balanced. Sometimes you don't need to show every single little thing. You can get away with removing parts or simplifying things a little bit. But yes, this is the final cat, and I would say the species change was a very successful operation. I am really happy with how naturally the tail fits in and looks part of it. I think it had potential to look really messed up, so I was nervous about that. I do think that he is still a little confused. It's okay, he'll get used to it. Thank you again to the wonderful people who donated the Squishies. I have many more makeovers to do, so stay tuned for the future of this series and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the Squishies get transformed, and I will see you next week. Bye!